There's a man watching this right now who rebuilt himself in silence, who talked himself through the darkest hours at 3 a.m. when no one was awake, who stitched his own wounds with rituals no one taught him, who learned to be his own anchor because every time he reached out, the rope got pulled away. And the world would never give him a trophy for that because the world doesn't celebrate men who heal alone. It lectures them, tells them, oh, they should have asked for help, tells them that vulnerability is strength, tells them that the door was always open. But here's what no one is saying. Maybe the door wasn't open. Maybe it was. And he walked through it, but what was on the other side made things worse. So he learned to build his own room. Let's look at what the data actually shows. In 2024, only 17% of men received a mental health treatment. For women, that number was 27%, nearly doubled. But here's the part that keeps me up. 60% of men we lose had no documented health conditions, not because they weren't struggling, but because no one saw it. Because what depression looks like in men, the anger, the withdrawal, the numbness, doesn't match the template the system was trained to recognize. And even when men do reach out, 81% of men who didn't make it had visited a healthcare provider in the year before. They reached out, they walked through the doors, and the system still failed them. So when someone tells you that men just need to ask for help, ask them this: what happens when they do? And what happens when they've done it before and it costs them? The symptoms they missed. Here's something that most people don't understand about men and mental health. It doesn't look the way you think it looks. When a woman is depressed, she might cry, she might withdraw, she might talk about feeling sad or hopeless. And the system is built to recognize that, to respond to that. But when a man is depressed, he gets angry, he gets irritable, snaps at people over nothing. He doesn't cry. He goes numb. He doesn't withdraw into sadness. He disappears into work, into gym, into the bottle, into anything that keeps him from sitting still with what's inside of him. He doesn't say, oh, I'm struggling. He says, I'm fine, through gritted teeth while his chest is on fire. And because his symptoms don't match the template, because he's not crying in the waiting room, he gets missed. The doctor sees irritability and thinks personality. He sees exhaustion and thinks lifestyle. Sees numbness and thinks nothing at all. So he walks out the same way he came in, undiagnosed, untreated, told he's fine when he knows he's not. And after enough of those experiences, he stops walking in at all. Not because he doesn't want help, but because the help that exists doesn't recognize him. Here's the first truth about men who healed alone. They weren't being stubborn. They were being rational because pattern recognition is real. A man opens up to a friend. A month later, that information comes back as ammunition in an argument. A man tells his partner he's struggling. Something shifts. She looks at him differently now, like he's less. A man shows emotion at work, frustration, exhaustion, anything real. And suddenly, he's not leadership material. He gets passed over. The promotion goes to the guy who performs stability, even if it's a lie. A man cries in front of his father, gets told to toughen up, to stop being soft, to be a man. A man tries therapy. The therapist keeps steering towards feelings he's already processed. He leaves feeling more confused than when he walked in. He doesn't need a study to tell him what his nervous system already knows. Opening up has a cost. And sometimes that cost is higher than carrying it alone. A 2025 research from Trinity College Dublin put it plainly. Male vulnerability is still dismissed or ridiculed in contemporary societies. So he learns to go quiet, not because he's weak, because he's been paying attention. And eventually, silence becomes strategy. Here's what I need you to understand about the man who healed alone. He didn't just survive. He built something. When you heal with support, and I'm not knocking it, someone else helps regulate you. Someone else holds space. Someone else reminds you that you're okay. But when you heal alone, you become your own regulator, your own anchor, your own evidence that you can survive the worst night of your life. You learn to sit with discomfort that would make other people run to distractions. You learn to validate yourself when no one else will. You learn to find the exit in the dark without anyone holding the flashlight. That's not a deficiency. That's a skill set. Self-regulation without co-regulation. Internal validation when external validation never came. The ability to be alone with your own thoughts and not be destroyed by them. These are rare. These are hard ones, and nobody handed it to him, what he built in the dark. Let me tell you what the man who healed alone actually did. Because nobody talks about this. He built rituals, not because someone taught him, because he had to. The morning routine that keeps him grounded. The first hour of the day that he protects like his life depends on it. Because some days it did. The workout that metabolized the rage before it turns into something he regrets. The weights don't ask questions. They just give him somewhere to put it. The drive he takes when it gets too loud inside. No destination. Just motion. Just the road and the music and the permission to not be okay for a little while. The playlist that pulls him back. The songs that somehow say what he can't. The ones he plays on repeat at 2 a.m. when the thoughts get heavy. The walks he takes when sleep won't come. When lying in bed becomes a battlefield. When moving through the dark is the only thing that quiets his mind. The journal no one knows about. The notes that are full of things that he will never say out loud. The record of every battle he fought in silence. None of this came from a self-help book. None of it came from a therapist's recommendation. He invented it out of necessity, out of desperation, out of the raw need to survive another night. And it worked. Not perfectly, not cleanly, but it worked. There's a psychological concept called post-traumatic growth. It's different from resilient. Resilient is bouncing back from where you were. Post-traumatic growth is becoming something more than you were before. According to researchers Tedeschi and Calhoun, as many as 89% of trauma survivors report at least one aspect of growth after what they went through. A deeper appreciation for life, stronger relationships, a sense of personal strength that they didn't know they had. And here's the part that matters. Post-traumatic growth doesn't happen despite the struggle. It happens because of it. The pain is the raw material. And one of the most common forms of growth, becoming for others what no one was for you. I've seen this over and over. The man who healed alone becomes the friend who actually listens, the coworker who notices when someone is not okay, the father who creates a safety that his father never gave him. He doesn't wait for someone to ask for help because he knows what it's like to need it and not have the words. He becomes a safety net he never had, not out of obligation, out of recognition. Here's what I wish someone would say out loud. The work he did was real, and it was invisible. No one saw the nights he almost gave up but didn't. No one saw the mornings he got out of bed when his body begged him not to. No one saw the micro decisions, hundreds of them, to keep going when nothing inside of him wanted to. No one saw him teaching himself how to breathe through it, how to refrain the thought that was trying to break him, how to find one reason, just one, to make it to tomorrow. He didn't have a therapist giving him tools. He built his own. Out of trial and error, out of desperation, out of necessity. And when he finally came out the other side, no one threw him a parade. No one said, "I seen what you did." The world just expected him to keep showing up, as if he hadn't just climbed out of a war zone in his own mind. So let me say what the world didn't. What you did was extraordinary. The fact that you're still here, still functioning, still trying, is not small. It's everything. For young men under 30, 28% say they have no close social connections at all. 1 in 5 single men say they have no one to call. And here's a stat that breaks something in me. Only 21% of men say they received emotional support from a friend in the past week. For women, that number is 41%. So he wasn't just healing without professional support. He was healing without a village, without a squad, without someone to call at midnight who would actually pick up. And still, he figured it out. Because that's what he does. That's what he's always done. Here's the last truth, and I need you to hear this. You are not broken for healing alone. The system was broken for making you. The mental health framework we have was largely built on how women seek help and how women express symptoms. Talk therapy, emotional processing, vulnerability as the entry point. But men often experience depression as anger, as numbness, as physical pain, as the inability to feel anything at all. And when a man walks into a system that doesn't speak his language, that looks for sadness when he shows emptiness, that expects tears when he shows silence, he gets missed. Or worse, he gets told he's doing it wrong. 40% of men say they wouldn't talk about their mental health until they were having the darkest thoughts. Not because they're stubborn, because the threshold for acceptable help seeking has been set impossibly high. By the time he's allowed to ask, he's already underwater. The system didn't fail because men won't engage with it. The system failed because it was never designed with them in mind. So here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to tell you to go to therapy. I'm not going to tell you that healing alone is invalid. I'm not going to give you a list of hotlines and call it care. What I am going to do is this. I'm going to say what you did counts. The nights you survived. The mornings you showed up anyway. The invisible labor of putting yourself back together when no one was watching. That wasn't failure. That was strength. The kind that doesn't get celebrated because it doesn't make noise. To the man who healed alone, if this is you, if you're the one that built yourself back in silence, I need you to hear something. You were never weak for struggling, and you were never broken for handling it alone. You learned to hold yourself when no one else would. You built rituals out of necessity. You became your own proof that you can survive the worst of yourself. You sat with pain that would have sent other people running. You taught yourself how to breathe when your chest was caving in. You found reasons to keep going when everything inside you wanted to stop. And maybe no one saw it. Maybe no one knows what those nights cost you. Maybe you've never told a single soul about the battle you almost lost. But you're still here. That's not luck. That's not accident. That's you. Choosing yourself over and over when nothing made it easy. And if you became someone who now holds space for others, the friend who actually listens, the father who actually breaks the cycle, the man who notices when someone else is struggling, then you didn't just heal. You grew. You took the worst thing that ever happened to you and turned it into the best thing about you. That's not nothing. That's everything. And if no one else said it, let me be the first. I see what you did, and it mattered. It's been your girl Rene here. I'll see you guys in my next video.